Welcome. Thank you for joining our monthly call. We have a nice group today, and what I wanted to do is just give you the usual update on the latest development from the Institute, from Robin and I, and then have an interactive session with the changes and trying to learn from each other. So what is introduction? You know, the meetings here, we can address any topics that you are interested as well, or if you want to speak, you're welcome also. Just send us a note and we'll give you the space to present. We had a couple of you speaking already in the past. There continue to new members, which is great, progressing, growing, not massive. We don't want to blow up so that we don't know who are the members and who are the people who have gone through the exams. So we keep an eye on that, but you can see we keep growing, and this is excellent as news. Congratulations to the new SIP members. The big news for us is that we've just launched this strategy implementation playbook. Is very similar to what you receive when you join, so the body of knowledge, but Robin and I, we just made it a bit more commercial. You will get a copy of this electronic version. I'm not sure when we have that PDF or Kindle, but you'll get, of course, as being member, this new. So it's a bit more fancy. The content has been upgraded, but you're familiar with that. But it's now available. It's a book. It's in Amazon. So yeah, we're excited about this, and let's see what's the feedback. But yeah, it's one of the first playbooks we found out in strategy implementation. So, and thank you for all of you who contributed. It's just another step forward in our goal of expanding strategy implementation throughout. This is just the admin. You have access to material in our member page. And I see that Gita just joined, and she recently got the fellowship recognition, and what a perfect timing. Gita is just joining, so I wanted to ask her if she can briefly explain her experience, and then briefly on what she wrote, so that we'll be sharing her paper later on. But Gita, are you there? I see she's trying to join. Hello, Gita. Hello. I think she's struggling with the connection. Okay, we can come back. No, she's blocked there. She's not. Gita, are you there?
Yes, I just got in. Sorry, apologies. I'm having a bit of Wi-Fi issue here. And
okay.
I could just see my name on the screen. I'm not sure if I should be excited.
Yeah, well, you should be. Congratulations, Gita. So I was telling our colleagues here and friends that if you can briefly describe the experience, and then briefly on their topic. We'll have time that you present in the future, but what type of research you did, and maybe people want to reach out later on. If interested.
Yes, absolutely. Do you want me to do that now, or
yeah, please.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much again, Antonio, for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I haven't got video on today. Really bad Wi-Fi. It's just going to crash the course. I had a it was very interesting, the whole process. Let me talk about the process, and then I'll talk about the research that I've done, and then the final bit. And obviously, I'd also like to touch on the kind of knowledge base that Antonio and Robin had provided me, and the support and the guidance, which is really also extremely key. So I think the process for me was very clear, and I think it started off with an initial kind of interest and video for me to talk about why I wanted to,
How was your weekend?
to do this.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And I think that, sorry, there's a background noise. I think that's Joe. Do you mind
know,
muting yourself?
Well, it kind of.
Sorry, can you mute yourself, Joe? Thank you so much. I'm getting background noise.
Monday, so I really did.
Can you mute him, Robin, maybe?
Right.
Okay.
Well, no, in Florida, it would have rained in about the afternoon.
Right, so we need to get Joe muted, Robin. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, Antonio.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think I'm having this background noise. I can't really hear. I think Joe is muted. Joe, sorry, can you mute yourself, please? I think you're muted. If you can hear me. Okay, so let me just go back into what I was saying. So the process was almost. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, apologies for that. So the process was very interesting because at the very initial start, I had this kind of onboarding that gave me an opportunity to understand what exactly I needed to do from the Institute's perspective, and from my end, the kind of work that I needed to focus on. And it was interesting that I was already working with an NGO then, who needed me to come in and do kind of a 3-month planning for them from a strategic perspective. So a strategic plan for them that they would like to implement. I mean, it's a really gray area at that point in time, because a lot of my work has been on kind of business model redesign, and there's a lot of strategy element on there, but I've never actually done a strategy design, planning and implementation for an NGO before. So it was a great test for me. And obviously talking to Robin about this, he was able to guide me and support me to understand the key elements. And the focus was the NGOs were, there were 2 NGOs coming together. And I think the focus of the work was a partnership. So they were trying to change the strategic partnership that they have with local community schools, that we're supporting them. They got into a point whereby they wanted to introduce social entrepreneurship, and they felt that they needed to start to kind of look for better partnerships and partner with better organizations. So they needed a plan in place that they need to execute in the next 3 months. It was a small charity, about between 3 and 25 people within that charity. So I had a chat with the CEO, and he was really interested. And I think this part will make you guys chuckle a bit. I was very ambitious. And I think what I did was I put too much in the plan, super ambitious, but I had the guidance, obviously, from the experts, trying to kind of lean my whole approach, because my whole approach was too ambitious. And they tried to help me lean it. So I had a lot of stakeholder engagement. I had a lot of planning that I wanted to do with the NGOs. I had a lot of kind of review of initial business model. And I think all of that was just too much at that point in time. So the first lesson learned for me was to be able to streamline that, so to still be able to achieve that aim of building a plan. I'm implementing that within 3 months to be able to support the strategic partnerships for these particular NGOs that were coming together, but making sure that it was a plan that will work. Another thing that was very interesting was on the stakeholder management side of things, they had an approach that was top-bottom. They didn't have a bottom-up approach at all. So all the information and everything that they have done in the past, from the strategy planning to implementation, has always been top to bottom. So we were able to initiate an approach different from that, and to convince the senior stakeholders on how to use a different approach and all of that. So I would like to round off here, but I think the most interesting thing for me was the guidance and the support that I had.
I'm losing you.
I think I'm back here. Yeah, I'd like to round off to say that sorry, my Wi-Fi is so bad today of all days. I'd like to round up that the support that I had was throughout the whole process, the planning, the engagement.
Okay, Gita, we don't hear you very well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my Wi-Fi is so bad today, but just to round off that, the whole support that I had, the end game was I was able to put the plan together, which obviously they're still in implementation process. I was able to write a paper, and thank you, Robin and Antonio, because obviously with your guidance, you know, I was able to deliver that as well. But the most interesting thing is I've got the fellowship now, and I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to the future. I've got a couple of NGOs now in my belt that are looking for me to support them going forward. So I appreciate it. And I feel that, you know, anyone that is here that is looking for the opportunity to do this, I'm available if you want to talk to me. If you want me to talk you through the process and the kind of things that I've done and the kind of learning needs and all of that that I had, and the gap and how that was filled in, I'll be very, very happy. So I'll send my contact on the chat. Please feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you so much, Antonio, for the opportunity.
Thank you. There's a thank you, Gita. Very, very nice update, and glad to see you coming through and that you see this useful. So you'll find more details on the strategy implementation fellowship. And today, as it's a kind of summer, I wanted to spend the time discussing, brainstorming. The last research that I launched here was around prioritization, and be able to focus. And I'm wondering if you are familiar with any new concepts, any how do successful companies manage to prioritize their strategic initiatives, and what do you see as best practice? So I wanted to break out into several teams and spend the time changing and sharing on this topic today. So if that's okay with you, let me put you in breakout rooms, and think just maybe if you want to just give a short introduction to your colleagues on what you're doing now, and then we'll discuss this. How do you see prioritization and focus in organizations? And any best practice, any tools, any methods, because I come across companies which have 1,000 strategic initiatives the other day. So how do you prioritize them? It's not the old systems that work on that anymore. So let me put you in a few breakout rooms here, and let's start with group number 3 on what you discussed, some of the highlights.
Bradley, you want to start?
Okay. Well, we looked at different alternatives in terms of ways to prioritize. Some involve technology. You know, I get a lot of good work done using a 2x2 matrix. So we looked about the implications of how to do that. Clearly, when leaders don't get on the same page right up front, it makes it very hard to prioritize. We were just getting into starting to review a tool that we put together called Cut Before You Add, to help, you know, before you start adding a lot of the new priorities, what can we start doing? And that's when we ran out of time.
Yeah,
that's what I remember, Gerald.
Yeah, well, that's great, because one of the things we did talk about was the AHP, Analytical Hierarchy Processing Framework for decision making, as well as one of the gentlemen brought up they use a spider map to kind of help identify the alignment of strategic goals with projects and so on. Obviously, alignment was a major topic. Also, cultural implementation, just because you're making a strategy and thinking about these changes, are you really thinking about the cultural impact of all the changes that are happening? The criticality of senior sponsorship and getting the senior team and a sponsor who has teeth to really help get everyone of the senior folks, because that's a critical part of it as well. And then I think one of the things we talked about was the critical constrained resources. The whole idea that across a portfolio of projects within an organization, you're going to have a few critical constrained resources that are probably on most projects. And if you don't take that into consideration, then you can only go as fast as those critical constrained resources will allow you, and it's hard to even go out in the market to find other people to do that work because they're so specialized. So those are the kind of things that we thought. It was a great, robust conversation that we had.
And the utilization of
Okay.
Hoshinkanri as well,
Yes,
to summarize some of those tools into one matrix.
that was one I didn't write down, but yeah, that was a really good one, Hoshinkanri.
Wanted to ask the second group, please. Who wants to talk?
Who's in the second group?
That's a good question.
This is exciting stuff, guys.
So what group is the second group? It's not ours, Nigel, is it?
You are group 1.
Unless it was myself and Julie, because we were in the room for 30 seconds, then they dissolved us into another room.
Oh. And what did you all talk about?
Well, while we were there for the 30 seconds, we just introduced ourselves. So then we were switched to other rooms.
Ah, so
I
that's
think what we focused on was the whole dynamic between departments and organization, and ensuring that the purpose was clear so that people could understand the impact of whatever they were doing on the organization. And we were not sure that that was clearly articulated, or even that various departments were talking to each other. So even the leadership, at the leadership level, you did not have that, as Gerald said, the alignment that is necessary to ensure that everybody's on the same page. We also talked about the strategy office, taking the time to understand whatever implementation dynamics they were getting involved with. A lot of the time, the line kind of dismisses the strategy office as thinkers, and the importance of communication between the strategy office, taking the time to spend time with the line to understand the challenges they were facing, so that one can really add value. I don't know if Ilana or GT wants to add anything.
Thanks, Nigel. I think that you kind of summarized it really well. And it's interesting. I mean, obviously, we didn't have enough time. Even if we have about an hour, these are things that you need kind of real life case scenarios to be able to fully analyze it. One of the key things that I felt is quite important is the key factors you got to consider when you go into an organization. Things like environmental factors, political factors. What is the state of strategy planning and implementation within the organization, and what has worked so far, what hasn't worked so far. And I think just having that very clean understanding of the current state of the organization is extremely crucial to be able to drive key next steps in terms of thinking about what the best strategy is and the planning. And I think another key thing that we highlighted was getting the people involved right on the onset to understand clearly, when I say people, the key stakeholders, and this is not just senior stakeholders, but a quick evaluation of who the right person will be to be able to support within the organization to implement that strategy, and for us to be able to draw back and to be able to give others the opportunity to drive their own implementation rather than focus on thinking, planning, and also implementing it. So those were key things that we talked about. I'm not sure, Filiana, if you got any other thing to add?
You can update something from our group?
Sure, I can jump in. Yes, our group, Julie, Shona, we had Chris, and we talked about a couple of things. One is about making sure that any project or any program or any strategy has one single synchronized message so that it's consistent across all stakeholders. Those stakeholders could be at executive level, they could be down in the field, the workshop. But if not everybody is on the same page, you are going to have people interpreting. You're going to have people who have their opinion and their belief. They're going to have their influences. And if it's not synchronized, then whatever outcome you're trying to achieve gets diminished or diluted because you're challenged and you're always competing with an ulterior conversation taking place. So the key thing is the synchronization. I think Sona brought up something really, really compelling around what are the objectives and the criteria for that. I mean, what are we trying to accomplish? How are we going about doing it? And make sure that everybody's on the same page and that there's no right or wrong answer specifically. Another comment came out about having a galvanized, what I call the why, you know, figure out why you're doing this as opposed to what you're doing or who's going to benefit, but why, like, what's this all about? The other one is that the old adage, keep it simple and silly or stupid, as we know. And then I don't know if I probably missed a couple. Anyone else have any to add to those? Great, Chris?
Yeah, I would add that Shona brought up a good point, is that having selected what you want to work on, you have to then balance that against the resources that you have. And that's really a two-step process. So you look at what you need to do, and then you look at what you have the capacity to do, and then you choose the intersection set there and get on with it.
Yeah. I mentioned that that company that I'm involved in have developed a platform, and they're seeing across the globe this massive issue around hybrid and the ability to manage hybrid resources in real time so that they know they're getting transformation and they're getting critical mass out of that hybrid as opposed to sporadic growth.
Nice. Thank you. Super insightful discussion. We still have one group, huh? Oh, we already covered.
I think we all got confused with the group numbers, but we've done we've done 3 groups. So,
okay, so that's good. That's 3.
Yeah,
that's good. Then we're good. Thank you, Shona. So I think what is interesting is that it's such an important topic. That you have so different ranges and approaches, but it's becoming critical for many organizations to have these advanced techniques for prioritization and focusing resources. And I like the hybrid approach too. So I just think from what I see that we don't have that right. I think when I speak with some leaders, they say, remember when we started the pandemic, the reactions of organizations and leaders was very much prioritization, right? They stop 80% of the projects. They say, we need to do 1 or 2 just to get through online, working remotely, whatever. And then suddenly this is fading away and we go back again to this world of hundreds of strategies and projects. And I'm just kind of concerned that this is, if you don't have this piece right, whatever you do on the strategy implementation is not going to be very successful.
And if I could just add, one of the other things that seems to be consistent is around the lack of communications.
Yeah.
Amongst the core and what we call the flex. It's a big failing because again, if you can't communicate a consistent message that everyone can articulate, that quote unquote Simon Sinek why, then you're going to get this people giving their views, and not that that's a bad thing, but do you capture the good views and the good opportunity, or are you able to integrate it? But if you don't have something foundational, then everybody's lost. They're all trying to figure it out on their own, and that's where you dilute the real investment return.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any final thoughts?
we need to do more of this.
I think this is really good. I just learned. This is for me great to hear you and come up. I hope you get the same also. This is top-notch expertise from around the world. Some of more practitioners, the more academic consultants, but I think the combination is so powerful. And the good news is that this is a topic that is just growing, and the number of companies who are struggling with this is just huge. So
One question, Antonio.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have heard what is then your favorite prioritization tool, or which one have you found in your experience that has something that work?
I wrote an article in HBR called the hierarchy of purpose some years ago, saying that you need to use the purpose as one of the key drivers to make selection, and then priorities. So purpose, priorities, projects, people, and performance, and that should be aligned. It's more for the top level projects. What I like also is the Google approach, where they say, okay, at least 60% of your projects, 50 should be on the kind of day-to-day improvements, efficiency projects. 30% is more on the adjacent products, and then 10% is completely around innovation and crazy. So that helps also when you look at the portfolio, say, are we balancing it right? Do we want to do much more radical innovation? That would be 20%. So working on kind of more the aggregate level than the details, because at least the prioritization methods that I learned with weights for each project, and that's impossible when you have 1,000 projects. You cannot do that. It just it doesn't work. So we need to kind of make everything a bit more abstract, more consolidated, and provide guidance. That's at least my approach. And even
you can use the Gartner. It's kind of like the Google concept you just talked about. Is kind of like the Gartner concept of run the business, transform the business.
Exactly, that's something like that.
Yeah, something along that line. But by putting the projects, even if you have a ton of projects, you put them into separate buckets, it whittles that number down that you have to prioritize around.
Yeah.
But it still goes back to, you can only get so many elephants through the door.
Exactly. Okay, well, thank you. It was a pleasure seeing you, and maybe we should do it more often. I don't know, why not? I love it. It's just once a month is short, but we'll see what we can do. It's always great seeing you, and I learned new things today, so really appreciate that.
Take care.
Have
Thank
a
you
nice
for hosting.
summer Sunday.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Have a good week.
Bye-bye. Yeah, bye.